Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Like Peaches and Herb, we're reunited and it feels so good.
I was wondering where you were going there for a second. Okay, yes.
Episode number 50, the 5-0, Inside the Arena now going to start getting mailers from AARP.
Isn't this like the golden anniversary?
Yes. And it's a big darn show because we have one of the best athletes that has ever walked a field in Seattle, Megan Rapinoe. On the show.
And you obviously will hear that momentarily, but a great conversation. And it was one of those things where, it's been a little while since she retired, not that long, just over a year and a half or so. What is she up to? And certainly we know about the podcast with Sue a touch more, but what else is she up to? And certainly how do you adjust to life? When it's basically 24/7, all about soccer, right? And now what do you do? And so it's a really good conversation. Insight to that she opens up, and I can't wait for everybody to check it out.
That's coming up in a minute, but like I said, it's a big show because we actually have news about the Seattle SuperSonics. So we're going to move the show around. The SuperSonic Minute up first. We'll talk Four Corners and Megan Rapinoe in just a second, but here this week we have news regarding the Portland Trail Blazers, and that has a ripple effect with the Seattle Seahawks, as you know, Niko, and the potential future return of the Sonics. So the estate of Paul Allen, this has been long discussed, long awaited, has finally announced that, yes, the Portland Trail Blazers are going up for sale. And coming at the same time, by the way, that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver gave another nugget to Seattle fans about the potential return of the Sonics. Let's get to what the Blazers have said now in the estate of Paul Allen. Just reading from it, they have announced that they've commenced a formal sales process for the Portland Trail Blazers NBA franchise, consistent with Allen's directive to eventually sell his sports holdings and direct all estate proceeds to philanthropy. The estate has selected an investment bank of Allen & Company and a law firm, Hogan Lovells, to lead the sales process, estimated to continue into the 25-26 basketball season. NBA Board of Governors must ratify the final purchase agreement. This news, they say, does not affect the Seattle Seahawks NFL franchise or the estate's 25% interest in the Seattle Sounders MLS, and neither is for sale.
Right, and I think that's a key word. I know that it, like you said, that the will, if you will, is did not mean to make that a pun, but it happened. It says that they have to sell the Seahawks at one point. And so many people say, well, when is it? When is it? I want to ask you, and it's something we were texting about earlier, actually, how long can they draw this out? Maybe if it says it stipulates you have to sell, who's to say that's in 2026 or 2056? Like, is there a set timeline? Can it be whenever? Can they kick this can as far as they want down the road?
So nobody has seen the official language
right
in the will and what the estate has been tasked with carrying out. We do know, and they confirmed again today, that this language does exist. The Seahawks will be sold at some point in time. Depending on who you talk to, there's some folks who think Jody Allen doesn't want to sell the team, but this has been part of what has been laid out by Paul Allen before his death. We also know that as part of the 1997 deal with the state to build what is now Lumen Field, there was a clause in that deal that Allen or a new owner, presumably, if they sold it before last year, would have to pay a 10% tax to the state. We believe that provision now is null and void because we've moved past a certain point. So that has been a factor in the discussions about the sale of the Seahawks. And then when you start looking around at what NFL teams are going for, there's only so many people who can write that check. And so that's been another complicating factor.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. And I think that, so that's the Chris Daniels sports business side. The side that I see is the Jody that's in the actual war room.
Yeah.
And I think she genuinely loves being the owner of the Seahawks. And I think she loves being a part of it. I'm not saying she's hands-on like Jerry Jones, so to speak, but I think she is a huge Seahawks fan. I think she really likes it. And have I talked to her personally about that? No.
Yeah.
But I'm just seeing what I've observed. And I think that, why would she necessarily be in a rush to do that?
She doesn't make a lot of public comments. They're usually, if they are comments, they're in the statement form, like we have seen with this announcement. A lot of people in Portland have been waiting. They've wanted this. Unfortunately, since the death of Paul Allen, he was at all of those games, a lot like Steve Ballmer is at all the games for the LA Clippers now. There's been a question about the direction of the franchise. Should point out when we start talking about and segue here to Seattle that right away I've seen people say, "Well, the Blazers could just move to Seattle." Well, the Portland franchise just signed a 5-year lease extension at the Moda Center, which is now owned by the city, has been working with the city for a redevelopment of the Rose Quarter. The WNBA is coming there next year. There's no sign that team is going to leave Portland.
No, I don't see that one. But I think that I don't think the NBA. I think the NBA wants the expansion in Seattle, wants the 2 Pacific Northwest clubs, that sort of thing.
Well, and funny you say that, because within hours, just before this announcement was made, we heard Adam Silver once again talk about expansion.
Yeah.
In an interview around the NBA draft that was broadcast by Sirius XM. You can check it out on their social media posts on our website as well. We've linked to it at KOMOnews.com. Just to read briefly the transcript of what Adam Silver said. He said, "We have an NBA board meeting in July in Las Vegas, and my sense meaning expansion, will be on the agenda to discuss with full ownership now for the 30 teams to get directly existing owners' views on potential expansion and how we would begin furthering the study of all the implications." He then goes on to say, just to be clear, we haven't begun any sort of process. Obviously, I know there's tremendous interest in Seattle. I know there's tremendous interest in Las Vegas, several other cities as well. So name drops Seattle, Las Vegas, says it will be on the agenda to discuss. I think you read between the lines there. What he is saying is that in July, again, we've seen him move the goalpost, to mix metaphors, in the past, but that in July, the Board of Governors will agree to a expansion committee to discuss expansion perhaps later in the year.
Yeah. And that's the way these things go. And we thought the expansion committee would be much sooner.
Right.
But all the complicating factors that we've talked about on this show, whether it was the media rights deal, some litigation after that, the sale of the Celtics, all that sort of stuff. So I think that, if you're a Sonics fan, you see that as a positive. And you may say, oh gosh, Chris said later this year, they're even going to talk about, well, that's good news because they're going to talk about it. And I would be surprised if they didn't at that point.
Well, and this is big money, big business, big chess moves here, but it's interesting. We thought that there would be an expansion announcement or expansion committee announcement last year.
Yeah.
In September, October, the Celtics deal did get in the way. Now you flip the script a little bit. So Portland is announcing they want to sell the franchise, that it will stretch into next year and then has to get ratified by the Board of Governors. Perhaps NBA expansion to Seattle sets the market for the price of that franchise. Right. And I had that conversation with Lauren Anderson, who is at the University of Oregon's Warsaw Sports Business Center. She made that point. She thinks that potentially the NBA wants to say how much a franchise in Seattle is going to cost before the Blazers are sold. Here's just a little bit of what she had to say. There's an immediate reaction that, okay, here we go again. The NBA is talking about expanding, and then the Celtics go up for sale, and that kind of clogs up or muddles the NBA expansion talk. And now the commissioner is saying, hey, it's going to be on the agenda to discuss expansion here in July. And oh, here we go again. Now there's another NBA team up for sale. How do you think this impacts the discussion about NBA expansion to Seattle?
I think one of the things is it muddles it in not a great way, right? Like if Adam Silver could have waved a magic wand, he would not have this happening right now. The Celtics were going to go for a premium price. The legacy, the price that franchise went at without even have a stadium in the deal, right? Like that was all just based on the team, the history, the brand, that valuation. That really, the conversation, he wanted that last time around to happen to bring up the valuation so that the expansion fee would be higher, right? So the league can make more money. Now, potentially swinging the other direction. the Blazers aren't in as big of a market. They're not the storied brand franchise that the Celtics are. And if that price comes in at, even overestimating, in my opinion, $4 billion, that's still $2 billion less than the Celtics went out. So the last 5 deals, they've gone up incrementally. It was, the Nets back in 2019 were at about 2.3, 2.4 billion. And then Charlotte and the Mavs were in the 3s. Phoenix was 4. Celtics jumped up to 6. If that drops back down, that sort of hammers your average value of the cost of a franchise. And I think, if that's not in the mix, the evaluation and the expansion fee would obviously be higher. I think it does also get, I don't think it's going to hurt Seattle, but man, having 2 properties in the Pacific Northwest, you'd like to know, right? If I'm an owner or a potential owner, I want to know. And I want to know, like, what's the price point and what's my expansion fee going to be? Because if I had all the money in the world, would I want to roll the dice in Seattle, or would I want to roll the dice in Portland? Like, if all things were equal, owners are going to have to make a decision about the market.
You had indicated on the phone you think that there could be a benefit here for the league office to set the expansion fee first for Seattle versus trying to sell the franchise in Portland before getting to expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's not a sales price for Portland now, the league can set it where they want to. I think if it's the other way around, I think people, there's just another more recent benchmark for something in the geographic area, and it'll just pull down the value a little bit.
So if you say, hey, expansion starts for Seattle at $4 billion or $5 billion, it drives up the price potentially for a Blazers sale, does it not?
Yes, it should. I mean, it's just saying that all the franchises are that much more valuable. So, you set that mark and someone comes in and pays that, then I'm looking to buy the Blazers. There's probably a little bit of a lift there.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, so Lauren Anderson there with her perspective, longtime sports executive, director at the Warsaw Sports Business Center at the University of Oregon, and I think there's some validity to what she had to say. Yeah, you say that the expansion franchise is worth $4 billion. It's going to prop up the price of the Blazers to potentially $4 million because you're talking about another team in the Northwest.
Yeah, and that's just it. That's what I was saying. You want the 2 clubs here. Yeah, it's exciting times. I really think that any fan who maybe doesn't quite understand what this all means or is looking to this show for answers, I think if you break it down, this is all positive news. It is. And from the standpoint of, I think it helps usher in expansion, like for everything that you and she just said. And yeah, I think it gives us a little bit of clarity moving forward. Obviously, July is the next, thing on our calendar with a huge circle. And so we march on to that. But I think this is all really overwhelmingly positive for these Sonics fans that have just been beating the drum now for 17 plus years.
And later in the show, Megan Rapinoe, the great Megan Rapinoe. But first, we kind of flip the script here.
Right.
We like to talk about what's good, what's bad, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play every week. We call this Four Corners. You just said you're extremely positive. What else are you positive about this?
Yeah, let's get, what? This is one I was really happy about, really positive. Our guy, Jamal Crawford. It's funny, you and I were talking about this event, and then he sent me a message on Instagram. It was about 1:30 in the morning, Friday night into Saturday. Like, hey, got this great event at Rainier Beach. And what that great event was they have phase 3 of their construction there, new building, unlocked, so to speak. They have the Betty Patu Library. They have the Michael S. Bethea Athletic Complex. And, of course, the rededication of Jamal Crawford Court. And this is overwhelmingly positive because here's when you talk about Jamal, this is first of all, we've talked at length about how good of a person he is. So like when first started working here, and you see Jamal Crawford. You remember the guy who just scores at will, most lethal scorer out there, and just had this flair for the command. It was so darn fun to watch. And you're almost like, wow, he's this NBA superstar. But then he's like, he couldn't be more down to earth.
Yeah.
And I know you know this, obviously. He's just the most humble and awesome human being. And when you talk about being humble, you know, there's no law that requires any of these pro athletes to give back. It's their money. They've earned it. They can do whatever the heck they want with it. And a lot of guys do. Yet Jamal has just continued to invest in Seattle. And it's so cool to see the rededication of the court at Rainier Beach High. It was really cool to talk with Jamal about that a little bit. And yeah, really exciting stuff. So that's my positive. Good stuff in that community. Jamal Crawford continues to do good stuff. And apparently now on the new NBA and NBC, he's teammates with not just Carmelo Anthony and like Reggie Miller, but Michael Jordan too.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that?
No, to echo what you said, I mean, legitimately, I've seen the guy without cameras around, shoe drive down in Renton at a court he used to play on as a kid. He has done things in the community without any sort of cameras around. Yeah. He's the one who has kept the fire burning with the Pro-Am every year that, oh, by the way, was started by a guy named Doug Christie, who went to Rainier Beach High and is now the full-time head coach of the Sacramento Kings. It's been fun to, in the last few weeks here, to see these guys who have done a lot off the court get a new title. Mitch Johnson as well with the San Antonio Spurs, named the new head coach there. Guy went to O'Day High School as an all-state player. To see Spencer Hawes at his side at the announcement down there. I mean, these are all Seattle guys who are waving the flag of the NBA in Seattle, and all of that is a positive thing too.
No question about it. And it's special when you say these guys are, they're literally the Seattle guys in the NBA are everywhere.
Well, I'll just say you stole second base.
Oh, no.
I was going to go there too.
We'll go there then.
I already talked about it. We're already, I stole second. All right. You stole second, something like that. Let's round third. What's not good?
Okay, so news out earlier this week of Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe and other guys being eligible now for the Hall of Fame. Baseball wiping out those lifelong bans. This isn't to say that's negative. I think that people stand on either side of it, and whatever people do, that's fine. My only issue with it is the timing. It almost feels personal to Pete Rose.
Yeah.
That about, give or take, 7-8 months after he passed is when, oh yeah, but now you're eligible to get in. By lifting these lifelong bans, Major League Baseball is, admitting contrition, whatever word you want to use, saying that, these guys are eligible, whatever they did wasn't serious enough to really keep them out forever and ever and ever. And they just so happened to come to that conclusion months after. And I understand, obviously, the family of Pete Rose started a petition in that way and everything. And I understand all of that. But there's just one little bit of it. I'm like, really now? 8 months out? And whether you like or you love or you hate Pete Rose is irrelevant to this. My only negative is the timing of it.
Yeah.
It just feels a little personal.
Well, in the hypocrisy of it all now in today's day and age with gambling on sports. And, we're talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson and the 1919 Black Sox and Pete Rose and, basically being kicked out of the game for gambling. And here's a sport that's making money off it. It just, it didn't seem right.
No question about it. And that's the thing. It's just, the timing of it. If there's a positive to it, it's that baseball, which has always been very averse to change, very slow to get with the times, appears to be, love or hate Rob Manfred. He is really, I think, taking a big undertaking to get baseball more modern. And I think that's a positive you take away from this. But overall, I just don't like the timing.
All right. Well, I'll take us home and say my negative this week is that the NFL draft is going to Washington, D.C. and not the other Washington.
Hopefully soon.
The next time around, I know that Seattle Sports Commission would love to get it here in Seattle, an event that would draw 750,000 people, or it has in other cities. We saw what it looked like in Green Bay. We've seen what it looked like in Detroit. It's going to probably look fantastic on the National Mall in D.C., but can you imagine a beautiful spring day in Seattle with, say, a green room on a floating barge in Lake Union with players that are ferried into a stage and Gasworks Park with the Space Needle and the sun shining and multiple angles of the city? I can just imagine that is actually going to happen here in a couple of years.
I think so.
I would just like it to happen sooner rather than later.
I agree. John Schneider said the same thing. He's like, oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
And somebody asked about it. Yeah.
There's so many scenic vistas, and it would be just another great advertisement for the city. You would just hope for good weather in April.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Speaking of somebody who's played in some good weather, and I've interviewed her in some really bad weather too, Megan Rapinoe your conversation with her.
Really cool. She was in town for a local event, which was really talking to small business owners. So that's what was really cool about it. It wasn't, I mean, she's there because of her awesome athletic career and everything she's done off the field as well. But it was actually kind of a pump up speech for small business owners and things like that. And I thought that was so cool, like being inspired by Megan Rapinoe. And I also like that it was a wide ranging conversation. And now that she's had a chance to reflect and see how women's sports has taken off, even just in the 18 months or so since she's retired, you'll love her response to that. I can't wait for you guys to check out this interview. But let's just start with how life's going, Megan. I mean, certainly people here in Seattle, they're still rooting for you, even life after soccer. So what's going on right now?
Oh God, I mean, keeping busy, honestly, too busy. I thought I would have a lot more time on my hands after playing, but I find ways to fill the schedule and don't really realize it. But keeping busy, obviously Sue and I have our podcast together, which we're loving doing, and staying involved in women's sports and just, trying to like adjust to being a life after an athlete.
Hey, let's start with the podcast from that perspective. I mean, it's just this platform. You can talk for an hour, you can do what you want, and you can really talk about really important issues, have fun with it. Talk to me about that experience and not just how fun it is, but also the things you can accomplish by doing it as well.
Yeah, to be honest, it was really hard in the beginning.
Sure.
I think I sort of like undersold it being a completely new skill that I'd never done before. So I was like, wow, do I hate this or am I just bad at it? I think I was just bad at it. We've really come to enjoy it. We obviously get to talk about the things that we love and care about. Women's sports, of course, but then all the intersections in there, whether it's race or politics or fashion or the things we find funny or way we want to frame things. So we've really found, I think, a lot of like purpose and joy, and we just get up there with a mic and yak for an hour and hopefully entertain people.
That's just it. I mean, so many, not just here in Seattle, but across the world, so many supporters for you and Sue, right? And now they get to kind of see this and not, I guess this is what we do in TV, like this, the 20-second sound, but now they get to see everything you want to say and stuff. And that's so special, right?
Yeah, it is. I feel like it's, being an athlete, you always have the opportunity to be in front of the mic, whether it's press conference or you're in front of the media all the time. And this is a little bit like we're basically bellying up to the mic, but I think we've found that we missed that a little bit. It was harder to say the things that we cared about, or we would, see a narrative or a storyline and we're like, that doesn't really make sense, but didn't really have a place to express that. So I think for us, it's just given us the opportunity to continue to frame and talk about sports the way that we see them. We have obviously both of us such a long history in the growth of women's sports, leading into kind of the very tail end of our careers is like now this thing is on a rocket ship. So it's really fun for us to talk about and think about, but also sort of put in the context for a lot of the new women's sports fans, what's happening, why, and sort of like lead them into the future with it.
The work that you put in off the field in your career, we're talking about how women's sports is taking off right now. It's impossible to ignore the work that you put in, whether it's the equal pay with U.S. soccer to a number of other things, to see like the work that you put in to see how it's taking off right now. Can you reflect on that and see how special that is, that work has paid off in every way?
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm like, damn, I did all this work and now it's really taking off. No, it really is like incredible. I mean, I'm jealous, and also like this is exactly what we wanted. So many players in my generation and before across different sports and landscapes and whatever. This is exactly what we've been asking for, and frankly like just saying was going to happen for the longest time. Give us proper investment and media time, and actually just give us a chance. Like it's not even like, oh, so much had to be put into it, but just stop oppressing women's sports and let's see what happens. And now it's like we know what happens. The lid is blown off, whether it's attendance or merch or ticket sales or just like general popularity and narratives and pop culture. Women's sports is sort of dominating all of the most important narratives, I think. And this is literally what we wanted the whole time. So I wish I would have been able to play in this era, but I like to think we wouldn't be here without us. So
I agree with that. And there's a blueprint for current stars to see what you all did, and even after the entrepreneurship, whether it's on a personal level. I know it's something you're loving doing right now, but how about that blueprint that you set for the next generations of stars as well?
Yeah, I think that part is maybe the most important part. I know for me and my teammates, and definitely for Sue and a lot of the W players, we were starting to be entrepreneurs before our careers were over. Some of it was by necessity, but also some of it was just by our creativity. So whether that was like actually starting your own business or having a podcast or the ways in which we feel like, even like the equal pay fight was sort of entrepreneurial in a way, because we had to craft this narrative and sort of fight in this way that was like, we think we're building this. This is what we think we're worth, and this is what we think we can build. So I feel like that spirit in women's sports is always there. And now these athletes are going to be able to grow their business from now, especially with NIL for some players when they're in college, but certainly when they start on pro, whether they want to have a media company or a fashion company or a foundation or whatever it is that they want to have. Yes, their career is important. That's one thing they're going to be able to do. But with the money they're going to be able to earn and the influence that they have, they're going to be able to touch all parts of life and culture in so many different ways and make an impact, across, whether it's like in a charity landscape or also in a business landscape. And I feel like I'm always putting my money on women's athletes in terms of business and driving narrative and being the people that we should follow.
And that makes it, life after sports can be this even potentially more lucrative thing now, right, with that regard?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many opportunities now with the growing landscape around women's sports, whether, again, it's media or commentating or just like the general business around it. There's billions of dollars pouring into women's sports in many different avenues. So there's so many opportunities, and we are the ones that have the experience and the skill set to really guide where we should be going. It's different than men's sports. Of course, there's a lot of overlap, but there's a ton of nuance and a ton of like industry knowledge, so to speak, that so many of these former athletes who are in their like life prime. Yeah, we're retired, but like I'm just about to turn 40. So I'm a young person. I have to do something for the rest of my life. So might as well be business in women's sports.
I just turned 40. So I like that outlook. That's what I got to do.
Yeah, I got along. Hopefully I'm like not even halfway there,
Absolutely. That's the hope. Yeah. I don't know if this would or not, but hey.
I hope so.
You knock on your head. Hey, so whether it's somebody listening to A Touch More, whether it's somebody that sees you on the street and talks about your playing days, I mean, my goodness, we know this town has just loved everything you've been able to do. And even now supporting you after. So what does that mean to you that, we talked about the impact you had in the community, in the sporting community, but on this town? I mean, the impact you had on it, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to be honest, it's kind of crazy
Sure.
To have that, to think about just like being a little kid and where I grew up and what I thought was possible. None of this was ever like part of the plan. Of course, I like dreamed that I was going to be in the Olympics, but you never like think you're actually going to do it. And to be able to do it in such a sports city like Seattle, in a little bit, they call it a smaller market, but it never felt like that. It always felt like we put ourselves on the map globally and nationally. So to me, it's really special. I love the Pacific Northwest so much. Obviously, I went to school in Portland and still call Seattle home. So it's an amazing place to come back to, and somewhere that always feels like is a warm welcome when I'm back.
Absolutely. So we've already seen, like we've talked about the podcast at length. What's some future projects? What's some things that are on the back burner right now that Megan might want to tackle in the years to come?
Oh gosh, I would like to do some pottery, but I need to start taking some classes. I would like to do something like that, but we have a few media projects in the works. We've sold a couple of shows. Really excited about that. Excited to continue the podcast. We do live shows with the podcast as well, so maybe a little like tour or something is in the works, and then hopefully team ownership in the future. I would love to be a part of owning as many franchises.
Oh, we love that. And we look at women's sports in this town. We have a women's pro hockey team coming to town.
I know.
I can't help but think that fan base has grown because of the work you, Sue, and so many others did. So thank you for the time.
Yep.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate
Best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
By the way, speaking of Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, I told all of my friends that they do them, I'm not into the betting as much. I like to analyze it, but I won't ever, sometimes do it. Maybe I should at Snoqualmie Casino Hotel. But I love the over of Seahawks 7.5 wins for the season.
Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about when we have that schedule.
Right, and that's the thing. I think that I like the schedule. The opponents are, been out for a long time, and I'm like, there's no way they lose that many games. Like they're easily going to win 8, is my opinion. So that's my betting advice. But no, thanks to Megan Rapinoe for sitting down with us exclusively, one-on-one. I think you get the idea that we had a good time talking. It was a lot of fun. And I love that part. She's like, damn, like I wish I got to get some of the benefits of all the hard work I did. No, but she loves that it has paid off, and we see that every day.
Well, we are going to have more exciting stuff next week. And as the basketball turns, potentially more developments on the NBA, not only the Blazers, the potential return of the Sonics, the Seahawks as well. We're already 50 weeks in the books, buddy.
Well, that's the thing. This show went on the air almost a year ago with the idea that we knew expansion was heating up. And certainly there was so much off the court and off the ice and, inside
Off the
arena,
pitch.
off the pitch, so to speak. But no, so it's really cool to kind of like when the Sonics, and I'm going to say when, but you don't obviously know for sure. But when the Sonics come back, I think it would be really cool to kind of look, at the episodes in the past. And like, as the basketball turn, look at every development. It's getting closer. And I love this week's developments. I think that's a really fun way to not just end this show, but look forward to the shows to come in the next few weeks and months.
David Lee, take us out.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.